Okay, welcome everyone to the webinar. Please confirm that you all can see the SolarWorks screen. It says webinar for West Virginia farmers and small business owners. Can one of my fellow presenters confirm that you all are seeing that?
I can see it.
Super, thanks. So thanks for attending. As the title suggests, this is a webinar for farmers and small business owners in West Virginia to discuss ways that renewable energy can help you gain control over your energy costs and save money on your farm or your business. We will be presenting on solar technology and renewable energy financing and funding options today. So thanks for taking your lunch hour to join us. Before we get started, just a few small housekeeping issues. If you are joining us via audio, you can dial in with the telephone number provided in your webinar registration information, or you can use the computer mic and speakers, whatever you prefer. If you have questions, I encourage you to submit them to us via the Q&A button on the bottom panel on your webinar screen. You'll see the Q&A option there, and you can click there and type in questions. We will answer those questions at the end of the webinar. You may find that one of the presenters answers them for you as we go along. So we'll be sure to get through as many of those as we can. This webinar is being recorded. There will be a link provided after the webinar has ended. So I welcome you to share that recording with folks who weren't able to make it. It's also being streamed on Facebook Live, so there will be a lot of ways for folks to see the webinar if they aren't able to make it here. And our speakers today, the person you hear speaking now is Autumn Long. I'm the Program Director of Solar United Neighbors of West Virginia. And I'm joined today by Jesse Gandy, the Energy Coordinator with USDA Rural Development, and Hannah Vargason, who manages the Natural Capital Investment Fund's Energy Initiative programs. So thanks to Jesse and Hannah for joining me today. We have a lot of information to share. And so Jesse's gonna get us started here. And so if you just give me a couple of seconds, I'm gonna switch over to Jesse's presentation. Excuse me. Sorry, pulling it up here. And okay, Jesse, can you see your presentation here on the screen?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Autumn.
Okay, take it away, Jesse.
Sure. So I'm going to be speaking about the Rural Energy for America program, also known as REAP, and it is housed within the Rural Business Cooperative Service, and our main office is in Morgantown, West Virginia, and I work within an agency called the USDA Rural Development. Autumn, next slide. The purpose of the program is to finance renewable energy systems and energy efficiency improvements for farmers and rural small business. Today, I'm going to really focus on the renewable energy side and try to skip through a lot of energy efficiency items, but I wanted to let it be known that we can also provide financing for those types of improvements also. Next slide. So we have two types of eligible applicants or entities. We have ag producers and rural small businesses. Ag producers are defined by an individual or entity, like an LLC, that receives 51% or more of their gross income from ag production, such as forestry items, crops, livestock. A rural small business is really defined based on the industry they're within. For example, a sawmill is defined as a small business based on their number of employees. while car dealerships are based on total revenues. That's just an example. Rural small businesses have to be in a rural area. All the state of West Virginia is considered rural except for the Kanawha Valley. Next slide. So we can offer up to a 25% grant, sort of like a cost share program if you're used to the Natural Resource Conservation Service programs. And for renewable energy systems, those grants will be between $2,500 and $500,000. On the other side is information on energy efficiency improvements grants that we can offer. So in summary, we can provide a grant for projects between $10,000 and $2 million. And here in the state of West Virginia, we've actually provided grants for those project sizes. Next slide. We can also offer a guaranteed loan. We can go up to $25 million, and we can also provide a guaranteed loan for projects as small as $5,000. Well, the way that works is a lender, such as a traditional lender, your standard BB&T or any state chartered bank or credit union, like a United Bank, and also the Natural Capital Investment Fund. We can provide a guarantee to them. And the way that works is we back the loan. So they provide a loan to you for the project, and then in the case of default, we pay a portion of the loan off. But one of our main rules is we cannot provide financing over 75% of the total project cost. Next slide. So what is eligible in terms of renewable energy? Solar, that's what we're going to be talking about mostly today, but we also can help finance these other project technologies, including the energy efficiency side. Next slide. So what is eligible? Eligible project costs include equipment. It can be new or refurbished, and that also includes labor and anything that's post-application construction, including taxes and fees. We can also pay for servicing fees, permits, and licensing fees, but we can't go beyond that 25% grant mark that I talked about earlier. What is ineligible is we can't really pay for anything moving that's on your farm, like farm tillage equipment or tractors, and we can't place or we can't allow for projects that place solar on a residence. In addition, whenever you're starting to work on a solar project, make sure you apply to us first, because we can't pay for any pre-application construction. We also can't pay for application preparation or grant writer fees. Next slide. So here's a series of about 10 slides on energy efficiency improvements. I'm just going to run through these as quickly as possible, and I may just mention a couple things about them. So here's a chicken farm where we provided some upgrades. Next slide. Here's a laundromat where we upgraded some of their equipment. Next slide. Here's another farm where we provided some financing for some equipment. Next slide. Some geothermal and lighting. Next slide. I do have to say that this presentation was provided by our national office, and it's kind of boilerplate, so I try not to move away from what the folks in Washington, D.C. want us to present. So here's a catfish pond, which looks pretty interesting. But next slide. Here's a greenhouse with some energy efficiency improvements. Next slide. Is a rural electric cooperative. Next slide. Here's a grocery store and rural manufacturer. Next slide. And a flower shop. Next slide. Here's, I guess, a tribal enterprise. Next slide. So here's what we really want to talk about is the renewable energy systems types of projects that we've helped finance in the past. Next slide. Here's an example of a veterinarian hospital. And in this case, it was a $150,000 solar installation, which is pretty standard. We offered a $20,000 REAP grant, and the applicant provided $128,000, and they observed roughly 30 to 40% reduction in their operating expenses. So that usually, in this type of investment, would pay back between 10 to 20 years. And if you apply for the tax credit or obtain the tax credit, the federal or state, basically you can reduce that payback period. Currently in the state of West Virginia, there is no tax credits, but if you are in another state, that's something that you could possibly obtain. Next slide, sorry. Here's another solar array. It looks like a solar farm, and this is a community solar project. I do not believe that this is legal in the state of West Virginia, but we could help finance this form of a project for a private entity, including a sole proprietor or a farmer. And in this case, the total cost was roughly $784,000. We offered a REAP grant of $20,000, and the applicant chipped in $764,000. I don't know why a REAP grant was so low, but if this was presented in the state of West Virginia, it is likely that we would provide a larger grant. I would assume that these types of projects occur in other states where they don't have the available funds. The funds are more competitive. In our state, there's not as much competition. There's not as many requests for grant dollars, and so we're able to spread those dollars to more businesses and more farmers. Next slide. Here's an anaerobic digester that's not solar related, but it would be eligible for solar, and we could probably even connect a solar to the digester. Next slide. Here's some hydropower. So even though these examples don't really fit into solar, all these applicants would be also eligible for solar installations. And a lot of times we can connect these technologies to a solar project. Next slide. Here's a geothermal installation. Next slide. Here's a solar array for a winery in Michigan. Our REAP grant was roughly $104,000, and you can see that the solar arrays are actually in and among the grape plants. It seems like among their production of the grapes are solar arrays. So that's truly a solar farm. And there's enough electricity that's generated for an average of 15 homes. And they saved 40% of their energy usage by investing in solar. Next slide. Here's an actual solar farm, I guess you can say. The total project cost was roughly $80,000. The payback was 9 years, and we provided a grant of roughly $20,000. That's a pretty standard project that we've done on farms. Last year, we completed a really good farm solar project in Preston County, West Virginia, that's very similar to this one. Next slide. Here's another solar farm where the total cost was $191,000 roughly, and they replaced 65% of their farm's energy usage. That's pretty amazing. And our REAP grant was roughly $50,000. Next slide. You can pass that one up. That's a different program. So for the REAP deadlines for this year, the first deadline was for October 31st for smaller grant sizes. And then the second grant application deadline is April 1st, 2019. And we accept all grant sizes at that time, grant application sizes at that time. If you are requesting guaranteed loan funds, we will accept them at any time. And basically, those can be funded on a monthly basis. Next slide. So the first step to apply is to contact our office, or you can also work with folks like Autumn and Hannah. They help package REAP applications, and they do a great job at that. And I'll just go through quickly Basically, you need to obtain a DUNS number. That's one of the first steps. And you use that DUNS number to obtain a SAMS number. And then following that process, you fill out some standard governmental forms. It's not too complex. And if you're working with a specific solar installer, ensure that you get a solar cost estimate that you can utilize to fill out the forms, and then submit that to our state office. And we respond usually within 7 to 14 days with an eligibility letter. Once you receive the eligibility letter, you can move forward at your own risk, and then you can be funded once our funding is available following the application deadline. But technically, you can apply at any day of the year. Next slide. Here's a website that has all of our energy investments. This is pretty interesting about where the flow of our money is going. Most of our national-wide investments are in the South, but we have kind of stepped it up thanks to folks like Autumn and Hannah in the state of West Virginia over the past couple of years. And in this, you can even see how many projects were solar. I would say that almost the majority of our funds go towards solar projects. But next slide. And here's our website. Next slide. And here's my contact information. Is there any questions or comments?
Jesse, thank you. We did get one question about the interest rates on the USDA REAP loan, guaranteed loan financing. Could you speak to that?
Absolutely. Interest rates and terms for the loans are negotiated between the borrower and the lender. We are only providing a loan guarantee. We would hope that the lender would be able to offer an interest rate that is commensurate with industry standards. So that's something that you need to talk to your lender about. But we work with most traditional banks and Natural Capital Investment Fund. They're what we would call a non-regulated lender. And we also work with credit unions. I noticed just from my own personal research that credit unions have a really good interest rate for folks that are getting a home equity loan. So they are eligible for the REAP Guarantee Program. And then so are state chartered banks and also community banks. So community banks actually in the state of West Virginia are probably the only entity that has received a guarantee from us for solar projects.
Super. Thank you, Jesse. I hope that answers the person's question, and we can follow up at the end with additional questions. Please type your questions into the Q&A bar. And I see one there. We're going to get to that question after the other two presenters go through our presentations, and it may end up being answered within those presentations. So thank you, Jesse, for that overview of the USDA REAP program and the funding, grant and loan guarantee funding that it offers. So I'm Autumn Long. I'm going to speak a little bit about our organization and the resources that we offer, and also just walk you through some Solar 101 technology basics, so we're all on the same page about how this technology works and what you can do with it and how it saves you money. For starters, Solar United Neighbors is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping people go solar, educating about solar, and advocating for solar. We operate in the following states shaded in on this map. We currently have 12 state programs, and we're growing all the time. We have been working in West Virginia since 2014, and we've helped over 130 people go solar throughout the state through our local programs. We help people go solar in a couple of different ways. The first being our solar co-op model, which is a local bulk purchase program or a buying club sort of program. So we get folks together in a specific area or town or region of the state. We get a group of people together who all want to go solar at the same time, and then we issue a request for proposals to area solar installers who bid on the group. and the local group members select one installer to service everyone in the group. So all of the co-op participants get the same base pricing for their systems, and it's through this competitive and open bidding process. We're there throughout that process as a consumer advocate to answer questions and facilitate installations between the group members and the installer. There's not an overarching group contract that people sign. There's no fee to join. You end up signing an individual contract for your solar project on your home or business through this co-op model. Another way we help people outside of that co-op model is through our individualized solar help desk support system. So by becoming a member of Solar United Neighbors, you can access our help desk services, which help you connect to local installers, solicit proposals, and review up to 3 proposals from those installers. So you really understand your options and what you're getting. We can also help connect you to funding resources and financing options. We provide ongoing support and advice throughout the entire process of going solar and beyond. So once you've gone solar, if you have questions or problems with your system, we're there to advise and assist you on that. There's an $85 annual membership fee to support our work in this way. And in West Virginia, I also offer the grant writing assistance for the REAP program that Jesse mentioned. So if you are a farmer or a small business owner and you would like to access REAP grant funding, I can help you navigate that entire process of applying for the REAP grant. In addition to that $85 membership fee, I'm currently charging a $150 base fee for the grant writing plus additional hourly fees based on the specific project complexity and the amount of time it takes to do the grant writing. So those are the ways we help you go solar as a neutral third-party nonprofit, not affiliated with any specific installers or manufacturers. So briefly, I'm just going to talk a bit about solar technology. What do we talk about when we talk about solar? We're talking about photovoltaic technology, or PV, and these PV cells actually convert sunlight into electricity. So a system, a solar array or system is comprised of 3 main components: the solar panels or modules, which do that work of converting sunlight to electricity. Then you also have an inverter and the racking system. This photograph is a farm array. This was installed in the Mid-Ohio Valley through one of our solar co-ops in 2017, and they did an on-the-ground, a ground-mounted array in the middle of their field where they run their beef cattle. So in addition to the panels or modules, we've got the racking that either connects the panels to the roof or the ground. And then the third piece of equipment is the inverter. The inverter converts the direct current or DC electricity that the solar panels create into the alternating current or AC electricity that is used by standard American homes and appliances and electronic devices. So the inverter makes that DC to AC conversion. It also provides monitoring of the system and connects the system not only to your home's AC junction boxes, but also to the utility grid through your utility meter. So how does this all tie together? The solar panels produce that electricity from the sunlight. That electricity flows from the panels down to your inverter, where it's converted from direct current to alternating current. The alternating current then flows to your electric panel to power your farm appliances, your refrigerators or freezers, your lighting, your water pumps, in the case of your small business, anything that uses electricity. And in a grid-tied solar array, the excess energy that is produced on a nice sunny day that's not used on site can then flow out through your utility meter and help to power the local utility grid through a process called net metering. you're actually credited for that energy on your electricity bill at the end of the month. So you, as a solar electric producer, get a credit for the energy your system produces that is shared with the local electric grid. So at the end of the month, your electric bill will be the net, hence the net in net metering, the net of the total energy you used minus the total energy your solar panels produced. And in this way, you can offset up to 100% of your annual electric consumption through your solar production. West Virginia utilities are required by law to let you net meter, and it is a one-to-one retail rate credit that you get for the energy your system produces. In other words, you get credited at the same rate per kilowatt hour that you pay for your electricity on your power bill. If the power goes out with a strictly grid-tied solar system, the bad news is you will not have backup power in the case of a grid outage. If you have a simple grid-tied solar array, you have solar panels that are producing energy, but they are not capable of storing energy. So if you are looking for emergency backup power during grid outages, you would need to consider the addition of battery storage. You need batteries to store that energy that your solar panels create while the sun is shining to be able to use it in the case of a grid outage. Now, battery backup is becoming more common than ever and more popular, but it is still a significant investment in terms of the cost. So I definitely want to, be upfront about that there are limitations to what you would be able to power with backup storage, and it also would add to the overall cost of the system. Some FAQs about solar systems modules are warranted for 25 years. There are production warranties on their power output for 25 years. That's industry standard. So these are long-term investments. These systems will be there on your roof or on your property producing energy for you for at least 25 years into the future, and possibly a lot longer than that. There are no moving parts. There is nothing really to break or wear out. So solar panels really are a great long-term durable investment. I mentioned the panel warranties, power production warranties on the panels for 25 years. Inverters are typically warranted for 10 to 25 years, depending on the type of inverter and the brand. More and more often, we see 25-year extendable warranties on inverters. And any workmanship and labor that your solar installer performs will be warranted, including any roof penetrations in the case of a roof-mounted system. Solar will be covered by your insurance, your property insurance, and it shouldn't add much to your insurance premiums. In fact, some insurance companies offer green discounts for folks who are going green through renewable energy or other applications. As I mentioned before, there's really no maintenance, little to no maintenance required for solar PV. In this area of the country, we get plenty of rain, as we have all experienced, especially over the past year or so. It's been exceptionally rainy, and that rain does a pretty great job of washing off the dirt or dust that might accumulate on the panels over time. So if the panels get covered with snow, they will not be producing power for you while they're all covered with snow. But because of net metering, you won't necessarily have any, problem with that. Your installer will size a system taking into consideration the fact that there will be a certain number of days out of the year that the panels might have snow on them. And if you happen to be in a historic district, there would be another step of permitting that you'd have to get permitted through your historic board to go solar, but that's not to say it's not possible. It's pretty common for solar to be installed in historic districts, and there's usually ways to make it work. In terms of the economics of solar, I really want to emphasize what a great investment this is for folks financially. Costs have dropped just astoundingly since solar panels became a commercial product in the 1960s and 70s, and even more recently, in the past 10 years or so, we've seen incredible drops in prices. So solar is no longer a very elite or specialty type of project. It is affordable. It is a great investment. It has an excellent return on investment, and especially for commercial businesses or farms, you can depreciate the equipment cost on an accelerated schedule, and you can also take a 30% tax credit on the total project cost. That is a federal tax credit that is in place through the end of 2019, this year, and then that tax credit starts stepping down. Next year, it steps down to 26%. In 2021, it steps down to 22%, and it is scheduled to step down to a permanent 10% for commercial projects and expire for residential projects in 2022. So I really encourage folks who have been thinking about going solar to pull the trigger in 2019 to get that full 30% federal tax credit with excellent market pricing. And if you're eligible for the 25% REAP grant, then that decreases your upfront investment and speeds up your payback time that much more. So it's a really great time to go solar. Here's some examples of system sizing for West Virginia based on average West Virginia solar pricing over the course of the last couple of years that we've seen on the ground. A 5 kilowatt system in the first column, that is a small, like a typical residential system size for a household. And a 25 kilowatt system would be more applicable for a larger commercial or farm size array. It's still a fairly small system size, but as you can see, it's a more commercial sizing. So off the top, solar is priced by the watt. So no matter what size system, however many kilowatts your installer suggests you install, you'll always be able to tell what they're charging per watt based on that total cost that they're proposing. And then we have the 25% REAP grant off the top, the 30% tax credit off the top. So the net cost after those incentives are in that first row of the bold orange number or highlighting. And then the next thing to think about is your electricity savings. You're going to start saving money on your energy bills from day one. And so over the course of the life of your solar system, you will accumulate significant savings on energy costs. Over the lifetime of your system, you're going to see a very significant net profit after that initial investment. In terms of financing, I'm really going to defer to Jesse and Hannah. They are the go-to folks for specifics about financing. The REAP program, certainly first amongst them for grant financing for these rural commercial projects. And the Natural Capital Investment Fund offers loan financing as well. You can also take out a standard loan. A business loan or line of credit is absolutely a very good option for those of you who have access to that option. In terms of interest rates, they're usually very competitive. And solar installers often offer additional financing options, either in-house or they will work with specific financiers to offer loan options. Okay, so if you want to join our program for farms and small business to help, get access to solar, for my help reviewing solar proposals and for grant writing assistance, go to solarunitedneighbors.org/REAP. That's the main web page where we have information about the program. You can sign up, become a member there. You can also see what type of, where we have open co-ops. Currently, our only open co-op in West Virginia is in the North Central region. So Mon, Marion, Harrison, Taylor, Preston counties, that north central region. It's called the Mountaineer Country Co-op. So if you're located in that area, I encourage you to join that group. And we also have a monthly newsletter and a listserv where you can sign up to stay up to date on what's going on with solar in West Virginia. And we also have a new Facebook group. So that's another way to stay informed about solar. Okay. And this is just what the Farm and Small Business webpage looks like, just so you have a sense of what it looks like when you go to the website, and you can check out more information there. And of course, I'm always available for assistance on a case-by-case basis. Give me a call, shoot me an email, look me up online. I'm always happy to talk about solar and how I can help you. I see we do have a couple of questions. Let's see. So we've got a question about, if you install a system that is bigger than you require, does the utility send you a check? Unfortunately, the answer to that in West Virginia is no. You receive a credit, but you will not receive payment from your utility. However, the monthly credit does roll over from one month to the next. So in many cases, your solar panels will be producing more energy than you consume in the summer months, and you will build up a bank of credits on your electric bill that you'll be able to draw down on through the winter months. So there's not a zeroing out date in the West Virginia regulations. It's an indefinite rollover, so you can build up quite a big bank of credits. I've known some folks who have done that and then ended up buying an electric vehicle so they could charge their car with that bank of credits that they had built up over time from their solar array. I also have a question here. How developed do we need to have our solar or energy plan mapped out before coming to you? And if that question is directed toward us at Solar United Neighbors, I would say that we can help you pretty much from the beginning, connect with installers and get proposals to go solar. Does this include home or residential based sales? No, the REAP program is available just for commercial systems, not residential systems. And is there a cost share for battery backup? I'm not sure what you mean by cost share, unless you're referring to the REAP grant program, that 25% grant. And I believe battery backup is included in, I'm sure actually that does apply to battery backup solar systems if they are charged by renewable energy. And Jesse, you can correct me if I'm off base about any of that.
Autumn, you are correct.
Great. We also have a question. What kind of damage could be done to the system if a power surge comes from the power grid? It's another great question. And your inverter, that piece of equipment that makes that DC to AC conversion, also protects your system from fluctuations in the power, in power from either the panels or the grid. So the inverter provides that type of grid, or that type of protection for your system and for the grid. And if there are fluctuations in the power, in the grid power beyond a safe window, your inverter will automatically shut down and ensure that your system doesn't either backfeed the grid or doesn't get a surge from the grid. Okay, so before we lose too much more time, we've got, it looks like we're at a good time to turn it over to Hannah Vargason with NCIF. Keep sharing your questions, and any outstanding questions we'll circle back at the end of the presentation and try to get through those. So without further ado, here's Hannah, and take it away, Hannah.
Okay, thanks, Autumn. You can hear me, right? And
Yes.
You can see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Natural Capital Investment Fund and how we can help with your solar as well as energy efficiency projects. I'm just going to slip that in. And then my name is Hannah Vargason, again. I manage some of our strategic initiatives, including our clean energy work across the region. We work in 9 states throughout Central Appalachia and the Southeast, but have a strong foothold here in West Virginia. So I'm also managing our local foods, downtown redevelopment, tourism, and recreation work in West Virginia. I'm based in Shepherdstown. That's our main office, but we also have a staff in Fairmont and Charleston. Just wanted to give you that background. Okay, so we are a approximately $40 million commercial loan fund. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are certified by Treasury as a community development financial institution. That means that we're a mission-driven lender, and we have a goal of expanding access to capital to those who can't access it from more traditional sources, and that we're promoting sustainable economic development. So, you know, we lend to small businesses and farms as well as nonprofit enterprises. Here's just a quick slide to give you a little flavor of all that we do. Solar and energy efficiency project financing is just a part of what we do. We're also doing, you know, working capital, other equipment financing, real estate, refinance, that kind of stuff. And our investments go beyond green businesses to those creating jobs and providing critical community services such as healthcare. So everyone's under the umbrella, really. In terms of clean energy lending, here's a few examples of some of our energy portfolio companies in West Virginia specifically. Oh, and I have a cold, so please excuse any, you know, coughing or otherwise. Thank you. So we've done over $4 million in clean energy financing for projects or clean energy companies such as solar installers, financing them directly. So here are a few examples. The First State Capitol building in Wheeling, owned by Mary Ellen and Patrick Cassidy, many of you may know. That was a whole building renovation, so energy efficiency throughout, windows, HVAC, lighting, and then they also added solar after the fact. And then bottom left is a Mountaineer brand, a beard oil company you may know, based in the Martinsburg area. We helped them get solar on their original production facility. They've graduated and expanded since then, thank goodness. And then another example in the bottom right is an agricultural project, Sickler Farm in Barber County, Mottsville, and we helped them with a biomass boiler, also REAP eligible improvement. So not only did we help advance these projects through financing, but we also provided technical assistance. Excuse me. So that includes sometimes grant preparation assistance. That is something that at this point we reserve for potential borrowers and otherwise would be referring you to Autumn in the case of solar. So if your potential borrower can help you in-house with grant prep for that REAP grant, connect you to suppliers, installers, make those referrals, and then actually just more of the nitty-gritty of project development, helping you think through what you need to do when, and really all the details of the project. We also offer financial assistance with energy audits, and I just want to highlight that because you seem like you'd be an open crowd to that kind of thing. So we have an energy audit program sort of outlined here. It's also funded by the USDA REAP program. It's another facet of the program. Jesse mentioned the guaranteed loans. We've talked about the grants. Energy audits is like a third leg that we manage here in the state of West Virginia. So, you know, we can get you an energy audit that you would use in your grant application, and we can pay for the vast majority of the cost of that audit. Here's an example of what that breakdown looks like. It's a 3-to-1 match. We pay 75%, you pay 25%, and some average numbers in terms of like what farms look like versus small businesses. And the current funding for that is going to wrap up in May. So we're going to just do a cutoff in April. And so if you are interested in an energy audit, please reach out to me before April. And not only would I think you'd be you know, sympathetic to energy efficiency, but, you know, I bring it up because energy efficiency is going to make your solar system go further. You know, the cheapest energy you can use is or that you can buy is the one that you don't use. So if you can cut back on your energy consumption and then invest the same amount of money in solar, it's going to create a bigger offset for you. Okay, so getting into financing. Here is a little overview of what we can do. We make loans from approximately $25,000, again, commercial loans, small businesses, farms, and nonprofit enterprises, from approximately $25,000 up to $750,000. Just so you know, that 750 number is a little bit soft because with USDA guarantees, such as the one that Jesse described, we can stretch upward. It's a little bit of a non-issue with regard to solar and energy efficiency. You're not going to see projects much bigger than that. So effectively 25 to 750. We're a flexible lender, sometimes called a gap lender, filling gaps in the marketplace, whether, you know, you've got a project that a traditional lender cannot or will not do for various reasons, or a gap in an individual project where, you know, you've got a traditional lender interested, but they can only do 50% or 80%. We could come in and fill the gap. So a few reasons the traditional lender may not want to do a project is just the risk profile. You know, maybe it's something about the sector, they're unfamiliar with it. They've got too many investments in a given sector, like hotels and lodging, and they just, you know, they can't be any more exposed in that sector. It could just be the internal policies of the bank, only willing to do a certain amount of financing, you know, for certain projects, and or if there's an issue with credit history or sort of the nature of your business. That's where we can come in and be a great option for you. I do like to tell people, if you can get traditional financing, go for it, because you're going to get a nice competitive rate. Because we're not competing with banks, we're not competing on price. We do price our loans affordably, and that is like a little bit of a range between 5 and 8%. And then those can be fixed or variable. And then we're also flexible on the structuring of the loan. So we want to match the loan payments to the cash flow of the business. So we may be able to provide seasonal payments if you're an agricultural business and you're only making money from April to October, or a tourism business. We could do interest-only periods, particularly in the ramp-up of a project like this. You know, we're not going to hit you with a payment before the solar's even installed and working and making money for you. So we'll hold off on payments. We can do balloon loans, meaning, you know, you stretch the payment over a term that's longer than the actual loan term, and so you have a chunk due at the end. That'd be good for, you know, smaller, like growing businesses that, you know, need that cash flow flexibility in the beginning, but expect to make more money in the future and can pay that loan off. So, you know, we could take more questions at the end and save us from getting in the weeds to areas you may not be interested in. But just want to also share this image to give you, just to illustrate again where we are sort of in the marketplace. So, you know, taking more risk and pricing a little bit higher than a traditional bank, but we're not like venture capital, taking a lot of risk and also being compensated at much higher prices. So whether you come to Natural Capital or you go to any lender, here's some things that you're going to need. So just have this in mind and or be prepared to deliver this stuff when you're, you know, ready to move forward with an application. You're going to need, you know, your business tax returns and your business financial statements, as well as personal tax returns and personal financial statements for anyone who's got a major stake in the company. For us, that's 20% or more. If it's a newer business, you know, we'd like to see a business plan. We want to know that the management of the business is strong. And so we may ask for resumes of key employees. And we would give you a list of everything that we need. And then think about potentially providing additional collateral depending on, the risk profile of the business. I think, you may know, and we'll have that discussion. And then we'll go through a series of questions. So it'll be some back and forth. We'll look at everything. We'll have questions. You'll give us answers. But here's a little bit of flavor for you. Okay, so I kind of ran through it. Here's my contact information, as well as contact information for our 2 lenders in West Virginia. We have someone based, as I said, in Fairmont, senior business lender Kevin O'Connor, and then another business lender in Charleston, Justin White. So ultimately, if you are seeking a loan, you will work with Kevin or Justin, and they'll take the lead on your project and the due diligence on your loan. And then I'll help them on the back end if there's anything we need to do with regard to grant writing or project development for you. So, you can feel free to reach out to them directly if you have a loan request, or you can reach out to me and I'll get you to the right place. There really is no wrong door, so don't worry about that. That's all for me, and I think we'll just open it back up for questions.
Super. Thank you, Hannah, for that great information. And if anyone has specific follow-up questions regarding lending or financing for Hannah or Jesse, please feel free to type them into that Q&A bar. And there are a few outstanding questions here that I will get through now. Before I do that, I do just want to reiterate the timing for the next REAP grant application. The deadline is April 1st. So I do encourage those of you who would like to apply for that REAP grant funding to get into that pipeline as quickly as possible, either with me, with Hannah, if you'd like to pursue NCIF financing, or join our program so we can get you connected to installers and we can start getting you in those government databases, the DUNS and the SAMs numbers that you will need to complete that application. It does take, I've done several of these applications now and I'm getting more efficient at it, and Hannah's done a lot more than I have, but they are, they are a bit time consuming. So don't wait till March 31st to contact us and say you want to file something for April 1st. Give us some time. Okay, so I see some questions here. Will the slides be available to review after this session? Yes, we will make a recording of this webinar available. That link will be provided after the webinar is over, and it's also being Facebook Live, so you can review it on Facebook as well. We also have a question about the solar flower. Has a farm or home in West Virginia installed the solar flower instead of rooftop solar? And the solar flower is like a very cute tracking solar array that's shaped like a flower. I don't have any experience of anyone in West Virginia installing that. If anyone here knows of a solar flower in this area, feel free to type it into the chat feature. My understanding of the solar flower is that you are paying a premium for like the cuteness of that piece of equipment. If your roof is not suitable for solar, you can absolutely install a ground mounted array. It doesn't have to be shaped by like a cute flower, but that is a pretty common option.
Autumn, I believe that Mountain View Solar installed one for a college in Virginia. So I don't know that there's been one installed in West Virginia, but we do have a West Virginia installer who is familiar with them. But I also suspect that a regular ground-mounted system is going to be more efficient and productive than a flower. So, but you can reach out to your installer about that.
Thank you, Hannah. Yeah. And there's another question. How are damaged panels disposed of? That's a great question. Panels are very durable and sturdy pieces of equipment. It's very unusual for something to go wrong with them. However, if there is a sort of, natural disaster or a tree falls on them or something and they become damaged, there is a growing industry of solar panel recycling. And in the United States, it is really still in its infancy because we're still in the first generation of these pieces of equipment. The generation of solar panels that's being installed on homes and businesses and farms today, when we're looking down the road at 20 to 30 years, as those panels reach the end of their functional lives, we will be at a point where we need to address panel recycling in a much more systematic manner than we've currently had to do in this country. And I believe, we'll be looking to Europe and the answers that they've started coming up with to address those needs. The European solar market is older and more established than the US solar market. And so they have developed panel recycling programs and industries that can, reuse a lot of the different materials from the panels in various ways. So that might not be a super satisfying answer, but it is something that, the industry will be looking toward with more and more need in the coming years. Okay, any other questions? Feel free to type them in. Oh, and we've got a new question coming in. Are SRECs traded in West Virginia? SRECs are solar renewable energy credits. These are a value form that are created through policies such as renewable portfolio standards. A renewable portfolio standard is like generally a state level policy that requires utilities to get a certain percentage of their energy from renewable energy. And West Virginia does not have a renewable portfolio standard. Our utilities are not required to get any percentage of their electricity from renewables. And so we do not have an internal market for these solar renewable energy credits. There is no internal West Virginia market for them. You can sell them into the Ohio market, but that market is currently very depressed, and they're currently trading for around $4 a megawatt. So, or a megawatt hour. So they're not, their value is minimal at best in the Ohio market. And we have another question about a residential install. Someone's interested in a residential install. Where is the best place to start? Well, I am going to direct you to our website, solarunitedneighbors.org/West Virginia here at the bottom of the screen. We have a lot of general information about solar. You can, depending on where you're located in West Virginia, you could join one of our solar local solar co-ops or become a member of Solar United Neighbors, and we can help you connect to installers and review installer proposals and assist you through the process of going solar.
And with regard to financing residential, we don't do that, but a great option would be a home equity loan. And I know some West Virginia installers are using a product called Mosaic. I think it's joinmosaic.com or something, and it's an online lender that specializes in energy loans. That could be an alternative to a home equity loan.
Okay. And we've got just a couple more minutes till we get to our 1 o'clock hour. We've got another question. I have a load and usage meter. How is the credit handled? I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. Are you saying you have two separate meters? Or maybe Jesse or Hannah know what that refers to.
I have not heard that term before.
Okay. If you're able to clarify that question, the person who answered it, I'll try and answer it to the best, or the person who asked it, I'll try and answer it to the best of my ability. The credit, when you go solar and you're a grid-tied solar system, you will get a bi-directional meter generally. That's how that's how the utility handles it. They will replace your current meter with a bi-directional meter that that monitors and tracks both the flow of energy going into you that you're consuming from the utility, and the outgoing flow from your solar panels into the grid. So it's tracking inflow and outflow, and you get billed for the net cost at the end of the month. I hope that answers your question.
And if you're a business that has multiple meters, that's not a problem. The credit goes on your account. It's not tied to one specific meter, so that should be no issue, regardless of what the setup is.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you, Hannah. So, well, we're right at the 1 o'clock hour, so I am going to wrap this up now. And I thank you all again for spending your lunch hour with us today. I hope this has been helpful. Please follow up with us if you have further questions. We will be making this recording and the slides available. And we hope you all spread the word about renewable energy and energy efficiency. So thanks so much, and have a really great day.